Hi guys, by the time you're watching this, I will be in Kazakhstan and I'll be thinking about you guys and praying for you and looking forward to hearing how your February went and your nurse leader shadows and all of that. So I am using this video to kind of reinforce some of the assignment, the book report that was introduced in class before I left. So I'm just going to kind of talk through it again and try to give details and examples. So as you're writing the paper, you're able to kind of get some more clarity, maybe about potential questions that come up. Specifically formatting questions, because that seems to be a question that comes up quite a bit. So I'll try to cover that in detail as well. So go ahead and pull up the document on Discovery, the assignment prompt. I don't have the tech savvy to have a split screen, so you can just pull it up and follow along. I'll let you know what bullet I'm on. So you are going to read the book, and as you're reading it, you're going to be thinking about past and present experiences you've had with leadership, either as yourself as the leader or as a follower. And each of the chapters within the book is titled The Law of Something. And so the number one is you're going to read The Law of Influence. It's a chapter. And it's asking you what kinds of myths that you've bought into. And the book describes various myths: management myth, entrepreneur myth, a myth that you have to be all-knowing, that you have to have all the knowledge to be a leader, or that you have to have a formal position to be a leader. So it's asking you to identify maybe ways that you've thought about leadership in the past that's kind of an erroneous way of looking at leadership. You don't have to have all the knowledge. You don't even have to have a formal position to be a leader. What experiences make you susceptible to that myth? So maybe the only people that you saw in leadership were people that were given a formal title, and so that kind of makes you think that only those people can be leaders. And then what must you change in your current thinking? So based on what you've read, what do you need to adapt? What's going to help you have more effective thoughts about leadership for yourself as you move forward? So number 2, law of addition. Think of a family member or a friend's need and how can you add value. So the chapter talks about adding value as a mechanism or as a way that leaders influence. So people want to follow others who bring value to their life, right? So how can you, through service, add value to someone's life that you know? And then taking it a step, a professional step, and saying how can you meet a need in your clinical group or for a patient, or maybe for a unit. Maybe you go to a unit and there's always call lights going off and there's a million nurses running around and it's crazy, and the way that you serve and positively influence people is by answering call lights. In situations where you are required to serve, how do you respond? So the answer that we want to say is that we always love to serve, right? That we love to serve and that we're never inconvenienced or annoyed by serving. And if that's how you feel and that's how you see it, that's amazing. If you find serving and needing to step up to the plate either maybe intimidating or scary, or maybe you are annoyed by it, you wish someone else would do it, those are all very fair responses. And so the purpose of the paper is that you can reflect on how you see leadership, so that you can develop yourself as a leader. So how can you apply the law of addition when you are asked to serve? And then you would respond to that. So number 3, the law of respect. Ask 3 people in your life who you are closest to, what they most respect about you. So oftentimes the things that are strengths to us are unknown to us because they come easily, and maybe we don't have to put a lot of intentional work into them. So it can be really helpful to hear from other people what are not just our strengths, but the things that people respect about us. And oftentimes those are our strengths. And then specific ways you can develop that trait. So let's say that someone says, I really respect the way that you are really, an active listener. And I really respect that about you. I really feel like you're very present when I'm talking. And then what's a specific way that you can develop that trait? Maybe you read a book about listening. Maybe you listen to a podcast about the power of listening, of active listening. Maybe you just consciously think in your mind as you're listening to people, I'm not going to formulate an answer to respond. I'm just going to listen. And when they're done talking, then I'll take a second to formulate my answer, right? So that's an example for that. Number 4, the law of empowerment. So do you operate from an assumption that you have positive things to offer other people and your organization? So you're going to be connecting each of these categories, each of these chapters. You're going to be connecting the prompts with the book itself, which demonstrates that you've read the book. So you're going to integrate concepts about empowerment and the assumption of goodwill towards other people. So they did a study on managers and asked managers to state their behaviors about the way they acted towards their employees. And then they asked the managers to basically state or write down, document their beliefs about their employees. So they asked them first to talk about their behaviors, how they treated them, and then they asked them to talk about their beliefs. And they noticed that sorry, something's buzzing here. That managers were able to say, yes, I have behaviors of empowering other people. But when you really get down to the nitty-gritty, that managers had beliefs that their employees were not able to do the work, they weren't competent, they really were lazy. And the purpose of the study is saying it really matters what you believe. It really matters, not just your behavior, but it really matters if you have an assumption that you add good to an organization, or you have an assumption that your employees are there to do good work. So it's asking you about some of your unwritten assumptions. And then how do you respond when people disagree with you? Again, there's no right or wrong answer. It's more helpful for you as the writer if you can honestly reflect and say, how do I respond when people disagree with me? And then a practical way to develop your conflict management skills, which is part of this course and one of the class goals. The law of legacy, number 5. So you made a mission statement in integration of faith. So go ahead and restate that. It's a way to keep that mission statement alive, keep it in front of you. When you think about the end of your life, what legacy do you want to leave behind? And this chapter, the law of legacy, talks about leaving a legacy and kind of retrofitting your life backwards. And so it's a good thought. It's a really helpful exercise. It sounds more morbid than it is. It's really a helpful exercise. And then using your mission statement and a vision for personal legacy, what actions will you take? So this is asking you to look at your mission statement. So maybe your mission statement is that you want to care for children. And maybe at the end of your life, the legacy you want to leave is that you cared for children and you leave, maybe an endowment for kids, or you give scholarships away, or you were a foster parent, or, in whatever way service looks like to you. So what actions would you want to take to live out your legacy? If you want to serve kids or you want to be a foster parent, what types of ways would you start living your life today that would help you, support you in living out your mission and really beginning to leave a legacy with the life that you have today? So that's the content. You're going to do APA, so that means cover page. You're going to have an intro. In that intro, tell the reader what you're going to talk about. So you're basically just looking at the prompt of the paper and saying, this is the scope of the paper, this is what I'm going to tell you about. And then you are going to have, I would encourage you could just follow those bullets down. If you like to use headers, you don't have to, but if you like to use them, it can help be a way to keep you organized. And you can use each chapter, like law of empowerment, law of respect, use it as a header, and then just follow the bullet points down. So because it's APA, it's totally academic writing, no bullet points. You're going to use, it's all going to be narrative. Use a reference page. The required source is the book itself, which makes sense, and then upload it to Discovery and to Folio Tech. After 7 pages of content, I'll stop grading. So part of the learning challenge is to be concise, to have a point, and to develop it. If you have questions about, if you have concerns about developing your writing in terms of thoughts or ideas or making connections between the book and your own experiences, the Writing Center is going to be helpful in terms of constructing the content itself. It sounds like this year at the Writing Center they have more tutors that do MLA instead of APA, so they may not be technical formatting tutors, but they are tutors that are there if you struggle to kind of express yourself in writing. And they also have online tutors, so you can do it remotely if you live off campus. So that's a good option. And then for formatting, there's a sample paper, a sample APA paper in your APA book. So really, my suggestion is tab that in your book and go back and just make sure that your paper formatting with your running head and your cover page and your page numbers and margins, stuff like that, just make sure that it matches the APA book, and you will be golden. I hope this was helpful. I hope that it answered whatever questions you have, and I will look forward to seeing you when I'm back. Thanks, guys.